I thought the problem was overstimulation. Too much scrolling, too many notifications, too much noise. So I did what everyone said. I unplugged, deleted the apps, went quiet. And it made me feel worse, not better. Worse, because I didn't understand what was actually happening in my brain. And I didn't realize that some of us aren't overstimulated. We're starving. This is the mistake almost everyone makes when they try to fix themselves. They hear the same advice everywhere. Your brain is fried. You're addicted to dopamine. You need to reset. So they remove everything. No phone, no music, no distractions of any kind. And they expect clarity to arrive, motivation to return, energy to come flooding back. But for a lot of people, that's not what happens. Instead, the world just gets quieter. And so do they. The first day feels intentional, like finally taking control. The second day feels calm, maybe even peaceful. But by the third or fourth day, something shifts. The motivation they were waiting for doesn't show up. The focus they expected doesn't arrive. Instead, everything starts to feel flat, like someone turned down the saturation on life. Colors look the same. Sounds feel distant. Even the things that used to bring a little joy now feel like effort. And they think, maybe I just need to push harder. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. Maybe I haven't detoxed long enough. So they add more rules. No phone before noon. No sugar. No music in the car. Nothing that could be considered a distraction. And the flatness deepens. Because here's what nobody tells you about dopamine. It's not excitement. It's not pleasure. It's not the rush you get from a notification or a like or a video that makes you laugh. Dopamine is the signal that says, this is worth moving toward. It's the quiet pull that gets you out of bed. The reason you reach for something instead of staying still. It's not the fireworks. It's the match. And when that signal fades, life doesn't feel overstimulating. It feels like nothing's worth the effort. So when someone in that state removes even the small sparks they had left, they don't find balance. They find emptiness. Because their brain wasn't overloaded. It was already running on fumes. And now it has even less to work with. This is the part that gets skipped in most conversations about dopamine detox. The assumption is that everyone struggling with focus or motivation is overstimulated. That we're all drowning in too much input, too many rewards, too much stimulation. But that's not always true. Some people aren't overstimulated. They're under-rewarded. They wake up tired, even after sleeping. Nothing feels worth doing. Even rest doesn't restore them. The days blur together and every small task feels like dragging weight uphill. And when you're in that state, removing the few things that still spark something doesn't reset your system. It shuts it down further. Because the brain wasn't flooded with too much. It was quietly dying from too little. But the advice stays the same. Be more disciplined. Remove more distractions. Push through. So people double down. They make the rules stricter. They cut out more and more, thinking that's the path to clarity. And when they inevitably break those rules, the shame arrives. The guilt for failing. The frustration for not being strong enough. A voice that whispers, you can't even do this one simple thing. And then the cycle begins. Restriction, collapse, guilt, restriction again. Each round a little harder. Each round a little more isolating. Until the person trying to heal themselves ends up further from where they started. Not because they're broken, but because deprivation was never the answer. The brain doesn't heal through punishment. It heals through signals that life is still worth engaging with. And those signals don't come from silence. They come from meaning. From small moments that remind the system, there's still something here. A morning walk where the light hits just right. A song that lands in a way that feels personal. A conversation that doesn't feel like work. Movement that feels good, not obligatory. Presence that doesn't require performance. These aren't distractions. They're lifelines. Gentle invitations back into the world. And sometimes that's what the brain needs. Not less. better, not silence, direction. Because stepping away from everything isn't healing by default. It's just neutral. What matters is what you're stepping away from and what you're stepping toward. If you're removing noise to make space for something real, that works. But if you're removing everything because you think feeling nothing is the same as feeling better, you're not healing. You're just going numb in a different way. And here's the thing about numbness. It feels safe at first. Like protection. Like finally having control over the chaos. But numbness doesn't distinguish between pain and joy. It just mutes everything. So, yeah, the anxiety might quiet down, the overstimulation might fade, but so does everything else. The small moments of lightness, the quiet joys, the reasons you used to get up, all of it gets muted together, and you're left in a space that feels calm on the surface but hollow underneath. That's not peace. That's absence. And absence doesn't build a life. So maybe the real question isn't, what do I need to remove? Maybe it's, what have I been quietly starving? What did I stop letting myself have because I thought I didn't deserve it until I was better? What small thing used to feel like enough before I convinced myself it wasn't? Because here's what no one says out loud. Sometimes the problem isn't that you're addicted to dopamine. Sometimes it's that you've been running on empty for so long, you forgot what it feels like to actually want something. Not need, want. Not because it's productive or optimized or part of a routine. Just because it makes life feel a little more like living. And you can't discipline your way back to that. You can't restrict yourself into caring again. You can only notice what's missing. And slowly, carefully let yourself move toward it. Not through force, through softness, through small steps that don't feel like obligations, through moments that don't need to be earned or justified or tracked. Just experienced. The silence isn't the goal. It's the mirror. It shows you what was already there. And sometimes what it shows is that you weren't drowning in too much. You were disappearing into too little. Too little connection. Too little meaning. Too little color. And no amount of removing more will fix that. You can't subtract your way to wholeness. You have to add back the things that remind you why you're still here. Not the distractions, the directions, not the noise. The notes that still resonate, even if they're quiet, even if they're small, even if they don't look like progress from the outside. Because healing isn't about feeling nothing. It's about feeling something worth staying for. Something that doesn't need to be loud to matter. Something that doesn't need to be perfect to be real. And maybe that's the part they don't tell you about balance. It's not about removing everything until you're empty. It's about protecting the things that keep you tethered to something that still feels like you. Even when everything else goes quiet. Especially then.